So it probably seems a bit crazy and you might not believe me, but Christmas was actually only a few weeks ago. And I wonder how many people in the audience either got or gave one of these devices for Christmas. Put your hands up. Oh, a few. I gave a couple Echo devices to family members, but it was actually Alexa that got me really, really interested in conversational interfaces. Got me really intrigued at the thought of talking to computers, conversing with them. So much so that when we started up a new team at work, and it was focused on chatbots and cognitive technologies, I knew that was a team I wanted to be on. So that's what I do now. I'm Gillian Armstrong. I'm a developer in Liberty IT in Belfast, in Northern Ireland. And my work is focused around how can we use conversational technologies to solve real business problems for our parent company, Liberty Mutual Insurance. So if you got a smart speaker for Christmas, you certainly weren't alone. 18 months ago, only 5% of UK households had a smart speaker. 6 months later, that had doubled to 10%. At the end of last year, it was up to 22%. And I don't know how many people got one for Christmas, but activations of Alexa devices on Christmas Day crashed Amazon servers across Europe. Maybe you experienced that. The popularity of these devices is telling us that users want to interact with technology in this way. The world is changing fast. Soon, conversational interfaces are just going to be another interface we need to think about when we build our software, like web or mobile. So we need to learn fast. And we need ways of building software that let us learn fast and change fast. And both chatbots and serverless are a perfect fit for this. So we've already answered what is serverless. So let's deal with the second elephant in the room. What is a chatbot? Well, a chatbot is something that you can interact with conversationally using natural language. Now, some of you may be thinking, well, hold on, I've seen chatbots just use buttons, menus, no intelligence behind them at all. And sure, but realistically, those are just pretty command lines, fancy web forms. It's natural language understanding that is changing the game here. It is what's making this interface significant. So that is what we're going to talk about today. This is the very first chatbot that team I joined built. And we've actually got another member of the team here today, Christine, who's sitting up front, who would also love to talk to you about chatbots. She's so pleased I called her out. It's an employee digital assistant. Sits on our intranet as part of a larger productivity suite. And it answers questions for employees about a range of things, HR, finance, help desk. Can look up and answer something about a policy. It can unlock your work phone if you've locked yourself out. It's something that's been so successful internally that we're actually selling it externally under our spin-off company, WorkGrid. It's built on AWS and using Amazon's conversational service, Lex. So when I refer to specific technologies today, that's what I'll be referring to. But almost all of our learnings are applicable regardless of the technology that you use. So how many people here have built a chatbot using natural language understanding? Hands up. Okay. We've got some. So for those of you who haven't, let's run really quickly through the key terminology, the key pieces of it. So right up top, we have our conversational user interface. That can be something as simple as that little web pop-up at the corner of your website, to something like Siri or Alexa. And the very first thing that happens is that the user says something. And we call that an utterance. In a voice system, of course, we have automatic speech recognition. We take speech, we turn it into text. And then we run that text through natural language processing and understanding. So we can extract entities, which are variables like dates, times, places. And we can map what the user said to an intent, what they meant. And then we map that intent to a fulfillment, the action we're going to take, what we're going to do. And that's where our cool serverless architecture is going to be down here. And then, of course, we need to respond to our users. And this is where our conversational user experience, the voice user experience, what are the actual words we're going to use? What's the voice, the tone? And then the final piece is text-to-speech. And all of that might seem like an awful lot of things, but if we break them down, we'll see that there are 3 main things we need to do to build a chatbot. So number 1, you need to design it so a human can understand it, like all of our software. Number 2, you need to train your bot to understand humans. And number 3, you need to write code to make it do something. Now, most people jump in straight at number 2, and I did, and we'll look at why that happens. And then you hard code in number 3, because you want to do that cool demo. And then you panic when everybody loves it, and they say, hey, could you get it in for the next sprint? And in all of that, you completely forget number 1. But I know that everyone in this room always thinks about their user first. They always consider their user before they write a single line of code, right? Of course. So that's where we're going to start today. It's really important to remember that in a chatbot, conversation is the interface. That's a big shift away from what we've done before. You see, in websites, we know design matters. Even if you're not a web designer, you know it matters. And what has happened here, I don't know, but I know it's not a technology issue. And a lot of people blame chatbot failures on the technology. It's not good enough. And it's not perfect, but a lot of chatbot failures are simply down to design. But I get it. It's really hard. Because up to now, we've just kept designing things based on what came before. We've carried the concept of menus and commands from our command line into our graphical user interfaces. We base our web forms on the paper forms that came before. We have to break out of old mindsets and rethink design, because humans are the original conversational interface. It's a human-to-human interaction that we're trying to model, not an interaction with a website. Websites are all about telling you what to do. Fill in this form, click this button. Conversational interfaces are all about listening to what you want to do. And we don't have time to jump into the nuances of design today. There is a link there. These slides will be up online after. But if you only remember one thing, let it be this. Do take time to think about your design. And at every decision point, ask yourself, am I telling or am I listening? And it will keep you on the right track. But there's no point listening if you don't understand. So now we come to the next part, where we need to train our bot. And this is the part where most people start. And here's the reason why. If you go to Google and you type in, how do I build a chatbot tutorial, you're probably going to end up on a nice console like this that's going to let you build a chatbot. This is Amazon Lex's console, but there are a lot of ones out there, and there are a lot of similarities. And when you go into that tutorial, it is going to tell you that building a chatbot is as simple as this. You define a set of intents that we mentioned before, what the bot will understand, the functionality that it has. And for each of those intents, you give the bot a set of sample utterances, examples of what the user might say. And these aren't exact matches. This is training data. It's going to take those, do magic things, and then it's going to be able to recognize similar things. Let's take a quick look at what that looks like in that console. So down the left-hand side, you'll see you have those set of intents. You'll see I've defined a set of sample utterances. You might have noticed that we have also defined entities there. Amazon calls them slots. And this tells the chatbot, in these utterances, you should look for this information. And if it isn't there, you should prompt for it. Down below, we have a fulfillment. You'll see I can just select a lambda from the drop-down, or I can just use it as an API. And those two little buttons there, you click build, that is going to take everything you've put in, and it is going to train your bot, and it is going to create an interaction model that can understand natural language. You click the blue publish button, it's live to your users. There's a built-in test console. There's even a tab where you can easily hook it up to popular channels, right from the console. So fill in all those fields, and boom, chatbot done. And if we'd wanted to today, I could have stood on stage and built you a chatbot live. But would it really have been a good chatbot? Would it really have been done? I see this message a lot. I'm just a baby bot. I'm still learning. And really the question is, are you? Because as simple as providing a set of sample utterances isn't quite correct. It can actually be very complex to get the right set of sample utterances. This is training data. We need to get real training data from our real users. We have call center bots. We can pull historical call center logs. For our digital assistant, we didn't have any historical conversations. We had to start and learn fast. And we did that by reviewing the conversational transcripts. Not all services have this, but it is invaluable. Because we were able to go in and say, okay, we're a global company. We say holiday, but our American colleagues say vacation, or they say personal time off. We maybe thought people were going to say what's on the cafe menu, but perhaps they're saying what's for lunch. Reviewing those logs let us retrain our bot with the real data. It let our bot get smarter every single day. It let it learn fast as we changed it fast. And you also need to look at your conversation flows. Remember that design. Where are people getting confused? Where are they having real frustrations with your bot? Can you change your conversation to make it easier? And where are people having a really positive experience? And can you replicate that in other places? But of course, we also need to write some code to make it do something. But that's easy, right? You saw. There's a drop-down, you select a lambda. Simple. Except maybe you're going to want to store some data, maybe you're going to want to call it to an API, and then all of a sudden, your fulfillment looks a little bit more like this. This is a conceptual view of that digital assistant that you saw before. And if I step through it really quickly, you'll see we've got a lot going on in here, more than just a bot. So the first thing you'll notice is that we don't actually go directly to Amazon Lex, although we could. We come in through API Gateway. We do that so we can handle our own authentication and control other things. We have our short-term memory, our conversational session. So we temporarily store that. That's just that immediate session. And then we have our context. That's our long-term memory. That lets us really personalize that experience for you. Take the right actions for who you are. So in our employee bot, that's things like your office, your title, your manager. And only then do we go to Lex and do our natural language understanding. And although Lex is a really critical piece, it's just a really small part of this diagram. Then, of course, we go to fulfillment. And we have a lot of lambdas in here. Some of them just do simple lookups. Some of them take action for you. Some of them hook to our internal systems, which is why you see the VPC there. And of course, we talked about those conversational transcripts. We save them off to S3 so we can run reports. But we also stream them to Elasticsearch. So we can do real-time analytics using a Kibana board on top of Elasticsearch. So at any moment in the day, we can go in and see how many people are on. What are they asking? What are they not asking? What intents are never hit? We can see where the conversation isn't working. So what things are people saying that is not being recognized? What are we getting right? And what do people want us to add? And as well as monitoring our bot and our usage, we also need to monitor our system. Because like almost every serverless architecture, it's a highly distributed system. We need ways of knowing what's going on. So you'll see X-ray in there for our tracing. You'll see CloudWatch. We also stream all our logs to Elasticsearch, so we get a centralized view of them. And we use CloudWatch dashboards and alarms, so we know right away if anything's going wrong. Because it can be hard to keep track of a serverless architecture, and you're going to hear lots more about that talk today. I see there's talks on testing and security. So having said all that, why did we decide to use serverless? We just wanted one more buzzword. We just wanted to complicate things. But here's our two main reasons. And actually, they were already mentioned today. That lower cost let us learn fast. And offloading the maintenance let us change fast. So as we've seen, this is an emerging space. We're all learning. We're not going to get it right first time. We need to be able to change our bot rapidly. And being able to use managed services and bring them together and build really quickly is really powerful in letting you do that. And if you don't get it right, you can change it out. You can use a different service. You can stop using a service easily. And chatbots are still an experiment for a lot of companies. They don't know if they're going to work. They don't know if their users are going to want them. Being able to say, do you know what? If we put it out there and nobody talks to it, it costs you nothing more. But when it's really popular, those managed services are going to scale it automatically for you. You're not going to panic if hundreds of users come on all of a sudden. You didn't expect that. And although Lambdas are only a tiny part of serverless, they were really powerful for us as well, because they let us focus in on our application code without worrying about a whole pile of other things. So we actually isolate different pieces of our conversation in different Lambdas. It lets us add in new pieces really quickly, change pieces independently of others. There are things in our bot that are asked every single day. So what's on the lunch menu? There are things that are asked only once a year. What's my bonus? But when it's asked, everybody is asking it. So for 90% of the year, it costs us nothing. On the few days everybody's hitting it, that individual Lambda can scale separately from the others. And while you're going to see a lot of talks today about how serverless means shifting your mindset in how you build, it is also worth considering that chatbots actually require shifting your mindset as well. Because when you're moving into this serverless world, event-driven, asynchronous, it's really, really lovely. But you have to remember that we're modeling this on a human conversation. And a human conversation is synchronous. You wait for a response. Now, I did say good conversation. Okay, so nice conversation with your friend, not your architecture meeting at work. You wait for a response. And you expect a response immediately. If you say hello to me and I don't respond, you're going to be pretty upset. You might be offended. You might never speak to me again. People actually feel that way about bots as well. They're not listening to me. They won't talk to me today. So your architecture needs to be fast. Not stock market fast, but it needs to be fast. Maybe you're thinking, well, that's obvious. Obviously, everything I build is built to be fast. But if you're in an existing company and you're putting it on top of existing systems, potentially very legacy ones, that can be a problem very quickly. And it also needs to appear synchronous. It doesn't need to be built synchronously, but to the user, it needs to appear like a really lovely back and forth transaction. So be careful. I'm going to throw in a couple things that caught us out. I certainly don't have time to go through all the things that caught us out. Moving into serverless for the first time, it's easy as a software developer to get really, really excited at breaking everything up into different lambdas, different services. It's easy to decompose it too much. And because each of those are spinning up, all of a sudden, you've added a lot of time. It's really important to remember that you can put more than one function in your function as a service, and that's okay. Don't put them all in there. But there is functionality that just belongs together, and it's okay to put it together. It's okay to put reusable stuff instead of in a separate Lambda into a library. Be really aware of your performance. And make sure everything scales. Yeah, I said that your bot was going to scale up automatically, sure. But your database might not if you haven't got your reads and writes on properly. Your APIs might be very slow. They may not scale. So things like performance testing, game days, they're still applicable. But it doesn't matter if you don't get it right first time. Nobody gets it right first time. Because we've got software that lets us learn fast and change fast. So we can just keep learning and just keep changing. But Liberty is a large enterprise company. So we needed one more piece. To be able to learn fast and change fast, but to do it confidently and at scale, we needed to not forget those good engineering practices that we already knew. Just because it's new technology doesn't mean old things don't apply. So remember that console? I'm not going to be okay if someone comes to me and says, hey, I built this enterprise scale system just manually through this console. We're just going to change it manually and test it manually. Of course not. I'm not going to be fine with that. Because while it's really obvious that your application code should be in code, what sometimes people miss is that your entire chatbot should be in code. Your conversation should be in code. And as has been mentioned already, this is the cloud. Your infrastructure should be in code. Everything should be in code. Because although it's going to take you a little bit longer to get started, to get that set up, it is going to make it much, much faster to move after that. Everything's going to be testable, traceable, repeatable, observable. This is our architecture. What do you think here is created through code? Everything. So we just talked about CI/CD pipelines. Very, very quickly, this is what ours looks like. Another member of my team, Gillian Armstrong, she calls this conversation as code. So this is the pipeline for the bot piece. So we write everything in code. CloudFormation, our bot definitions are in JSON. We have our lambdas, our libraries. So we can test it locally, but as soon as we check it in, obviously all those tests are run. Our unit tests, our static analysis, and we know everything that's going on because we get messages to our Slack channel. So we know when a build has happened, when a deploy has happened. We would know instantly if a build failed, or at least we think we would. Never happened yet. Christine will tell you that's true, totally true. But if the build passes, we automatically deploy out to our development environment. And if you're wondering how the bot deployment ties into this, here's how we do it. So as part of our CloudFormation, we have a Lambda-backed custom resource, our bot builder, that we call out to. All those bot definitions have been uploaded to S3. We then pull them down in that Lambda, and we call out to the Amazon Lex model building service, and we build the bot. And what that means is that if there's a problem, if it fails, we can now roll back everything. Nothing is ever going to be out of sync. And when we deploy, we run a couple more tests. In our non-prod environments only, we run a really critical set of component tests. And we do this directly against Lex. And the point of these is to test our bot's understanding. So we've created that new bot. We have retrained that model with new data. And it's really easy to forget that this is machine learning. So when you change your data, when you add a new intent, you add new sample utterances, you can easily change the confidence of another intent, accidentally. So these tests let us know that all of our intents are still performing at the level we want. We've still got really solid understanding. And that means that we can go ahead and push from development to production, complete confidence. We can get out there in minutes. And of course, we've already mentioned, we don't just hope for the best. We do have all of those alarms, those metrics, the centralized logging. If anything goes wrong, we want to know fast, so we can fix fast. All of those fast feedback loops are part of learning fast and changing fast. Those tests, the monitoring, the analytics, And as well as having your automated system feedback, it's really, really important to remember your analog feedback, your user feedback. Our bot lets our users enter feedback directly. But we also consider anything that the user said that we didn't understand to be a form of feedback. A really natural, organic form you can't get in any other interface. Because when the user asked that, they told you, this is what I expected the bot to do. This is what I wanted the bot to do. So really, really key to learning is listening. And so if you can learn to listen, then you can learn. And conversational interfaces is that all about listening. That's really exciting. And if you can listen, then you can learn. And if you can use those learnings to change fast, I guarantee you, you will have a great chatbot. Now, if we've got time for questions, no. If you have questions, you can tweet me or you can talk to me afterwards. Always happy to talk about lots of things.